What is happening, guys? Welcome back to Redbeard's Garage. And if you've been following along, we've been doing a step-by-step how to engine swap your go-kart on a single seat Yerf Dog spider box. Now, in the last episode, we did the full stainless exhaust, and I showed you guys how I go about building stainless exhaust. And the episode before that, we did the engine, the actual engine swap, where we modified the swing arm, kept the factory axle location, and added a Vegas Karts gearbox. We added a EC Carburetor's 460 Wildcat engine. And now we got to do all the wiring, and I know people's asked 100 times how to wire these engines, and we've shown it in past videos, but again, this series we're breaking down every single step and not skipping anything, because sometimes we forget how much stuff we've learned over the years and we take it for granted, and we know you guys might be starting out, so that's why we're doing this series. So we're going to jump right into explaining the wiring. We got to put the swing arm onto the go-kart and then do all the wiring on the go-kart. You got to do stuff like throttle, and we also got to put the new charging system on that Wildcat 460, so we have a 26 amp charging system. So let's get right into today's video. So when we wire this setup to a key switch, there's only a couple wires that have to run to the engine. So first off is a ground we need. So what I do is I ground the block to the swing arm, then I ground the swing arm to the chassis, and then I ground the chassis to the battery. So everything is linked to properly ground a setup. That's the way you would do it. So anything you ground to the chassis is grounded directly to the engine. You don't have to worry about powder coat or anything like that messing with your connection. So the first thing we need is a ground. We can hook that to one of these because this is where the key switch used to hook up. So normally I bolt it right in there, and then I'll drill and tap a hole or put a thread insert on the frame like right here and run that ground down to it. And then again, I'll do a lead that jumps over to the chassis, then go to the battery. So the second thing is a hot going to this stub. This is the same for a 212 or a big block, exactly the same. But you have this stub here. This is the hot to the starter solenoid. So this is going to be directly from the battery, and this will provide all the power for when you hit the starting button to give the starter. So this little spade connector here, this is going to be, when you turn your key switch, this is going to receive 12 volts that opens this circuit so it can pass through the power from the battery to this wire, which is tucked behind it, and it goes to the starter motor. So with our key switches we sell on rbgkart.com, only one that has a billet nut, because a lot of them are plastic. This is fully CNC billet, and it also comes with a bracket that you can use a hose clamp and put it on tubing. You can cut this and weld it however you need to. But it's going to have 5 wires coming out of it. It's going to have a black, which is chassis ground. It's going to have green, and that's going to go to the kill switch wire on your engine. So I forgot about that one. We have this kill switch wire right here hanging out under the starter, and it goes up on top of the block to the coil. So when this gets grounded, the ignition coil can no longer create a spark. So the green wire on our key switches goes to this connection to ground out the coil. The black goes to the block or the frame, wherever it's grounded to be the ground. So when you turn the key switch off, this green and black one's connected inside the key switch, so it's going to send ground to that coil. So then we have yellow, white, and red is what we have left. The yellow is going to go directly to the battery, and I would fuse it at about 15 amps, 20 amps will be fine. So when we hook up a lead from here going to our battery, we'll put a fuse before the battery going to this yellow. So the yellow is directly to the positive of your battery. Then your white is accessory. So that means when you turn the key switch on, just like in a car, this white one will be powered, so you can run that to your controls for your light bar or something like that. So this is key switch hot. Then the red wire is going to be the wire you run to this spade connector here, and that's going to be your signal wire for your starter. So when that red wire, when you twist the key to start it, it's going to send 12 volts to this, which opens the circuit, makes the starter motor turn over. So that's the only thing you need to hook up an electric start on this engine. Now this engine also has, since it has charging coils, it does have this wire coming out of the block, which is a double spade connector, and that's going to the charging coils behind the flywheel. So this engine does come with this voltage regulator rectifier. This is going to turn the power from the coils from AC to DC and kind of stabilize the power output. So this plugs directly in to this. So the Wildcat 460 is one of the only engines that comes with this. And this it's better for lights, better for your battery and charging. You really need this, and the Predators do not come with it. So anyways, we're gonna plug this up, but then we have this hot. This hot can tie on with the hot going from your battery to your starter solenoid, because what this is gonna do is put the output, the charging output to this, which in return will backfeed to the battery from the cable you run to your starter, to the post on the starter, not the red off the key switch. That's just a signal. Then you have a black, and this just can ground with the ground that we're going to ground to the block, and that's all you need to know. You can mount this wherever. You can buy the top plates and mount this on it. You can mount this on the chassis and have the wires running to it, but that's the only thing like you have to do to have electric start on your go-kart. And that, again, this is small block or big block. The only difference is small block has a different setup coming out, unless it's a Wildcat. A Wildcat does have one of these as well, and it's the same exact wiring setup. But one that doesn't, like a stock bike on a mini bike that has charging coils, this is just going to run directly to your battery terminal that's going to the starter. So we're upgrading this charging system with, so this is a high output 26 amp charging system. Now this is a stock style flywheel, so you don't want to rev this past like 5,000 RPMs or so. You can see it's got way more magnets, where the stock one has like 2 or maybe 4. And then the biggest difference is in the coil itself. Instead of having the 2 small coils behind the flywheel like the stock one does, this one has this larger one and can produce 26 amps. So it comes with its own voltage regulator and a heavier wire, because this is way higher output. This is under 10 what this engine factory puts out in the charging system. This will do 26 amps. It does the same thing. You ground this to the block. This is going to hook up to the post that's going to your battery, and this is the large cables that run to this and plug up. And this has a massive 40 amp fuse. Well, these lids are kind of hard to get off. Got a big 40 amp automotive style fuse, which is sick. This is like what a lot of Fords have on them and stuff. So this is like a heavy duty one. So our engine's getting this set up very soon. We could actually go ahead and do that to get it upgraded. But yeah, so it does come with this charging system. So if anybody's interested in the Wildcat flywheel, the stock flywheel charging coils, and this voltage regulator, it'll be on our garage sale page as brand new takeoff parts. So if anybody's interested, always look on our garage sale page on rbgkarts.com, and it's always linked in the video description. So we'll get to installing this higher output charging system next on this Wildcat engine. So to install this charging coil, we do have a video on our channel just showing you this charging coil, but we're going to take out, there's 5 8mm bolts. You're going to want to pull it out a little bit and then kind of tilt it under this governor arm. That's what we're staying away from. And then of course we have our flywheel fan, our starter cup, this is for the pull start, and then our ignition coil. We are going to switch this out later. I don't have one now, but we're getting a 5,500 RPM limited coil to be safe for our flywheel. We're also going to go ahead and remove this ignition coil. We have to pop off this flywheel. We'll have to set the gap again. So I'm just going to pop this out so we can get it out of our way. Next, we're going to take out the nut on the flywheel, which is a 15/16. 15/16? Hey, Lonnie's right. Give that guy a piece of plastic. We'll pull the fan off, and now just like on the 212, oh, this one has puller holes.
Real nice.
That is real nice. We don't have to beat on it like a freaking Lincoln. We're going to have to use the hammer and pry bar method, because I don't have, those are 5mm or 6mm screws, and I don't have any long enough to use my 3-jaw puller, my little like flywheel puller. So we put that on so the crankshaft is just in there. We can hit this with a hammer and pry outward on the back of the flywheel with a pry bar, and that shock will release it.
This is probably the way most people have to do it anyways.
Yeah, they're not going to have the tool. We get just behind the ring gear. I'm going to pry against the block. I'm going to tap this. And there we go.
There it goes.
They normally, the factory ones normally come off pretty easy. Spin the nut off. Okay, there we go. So Remember how I showed you guys that that one had a bunch of pucks, this one has 4. So that's why that one's got higher output, and this only has the 2 coils, which is only rated for, it's under 10 amps. It's not even enough to really run a headlight and replenish your electric starts. So 4/8 holding the coils on. So we got another 8 holding this shield on that protects the wires right there. Now we can pop this out and our charging coils are out. So now we have our new ones. It has some dowels that help to align it. You're gonna put it on just like that. And it has a new rubber grommet that protects the wires as they pass through the block, like so. Now you can rotate this however you see fit. So we're gonna reuse this factory hold down. So we've got this unbolted, and I'm just trying to push it out of the way just so I can get a wrench or a socket in there. Okay, now I just wanna make sure that my wire don't have too much in there. Is that good? Mm-hmm. It's got that little nipple in there it's supposed to push up against. Now we can push this down and put it back on there. Slide this on, get the keyway lined up. Watch your fingers. That magnet is strong. Then we're going to put on our starter cup, making sure everything is lined up correctly. Now, normally you'd be torquing this down. You want to torque this down to the specs on the screen.
And that's it.
And that's what we're doing, but we're not telling you to do it. All right, now we can install our coil, right?
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
That's it.
Then we're going to set our coil gap to 10 thousandths of an inch on a stock coil. They don't take much. We have a 10. Tuck in there. Just push it down. Get it seated all the way. Now we can put our side cover back on, replace the 5 bolts, and we are good to go to plug up that voltage regulator and put this swing arm on the go-kart. So a while back I found this on Amazon. This is a cable choke bracket for a GX 390. This will work on a 420, 459, these 460s, they all have the same carburetor. So this will allow us to hook a cable choke and be able to choke the engine from the driver's seat, which is super nice if you're going to keep the stock carburetor. Now we are going to be replacing this carb with a Mikuni style probably in the next video, like after we've rode it in this setup. But I wanted to install this, then we got to put the air filter adapter, the jet, and the air filter in this carburetor. So to put this on, we do have to slide the carb until it's off the studs. And then this has a hook, if you can see. This has a hook right there at my finger that slides down in the choke hole. So we slide it on, then we can line up the holes, and then we can slide this back. Then we can put on our air filter adapter, making sure that we get our holes lined up correctly. We can use our factory nuts and tighten this back up. We can install our air filter onto the adapter and tighten that down. Now we can run our cable from the back side here and grab this, and this will choke it. The only thing is it snaps into the choke, so we do have to use a stiff choke style cable like a lawnmower use, so we have control over this. But yeah, so that's fully installed. Now I gotta jet up the carb. Give it a tap. It came off. So the emulsion tube sometimes will fall out. So we're going to try a 42 thousandths jet. The factory one was 38 thousandths. So this is a pretty decent jump, but if we need to drill it out, we will, and we'll let you know what size we end up with. Biggest thing, make sure your O-ring is still in there. We have an upgraded carb. So we got the gearbox. This is a little bit frustrating to do, but Lonnie took this piece of angle. This is like 3/16 angle that we had scrap, drilled 2 holes that match up to the shifter. So the shifter, when you take this center bolt out of the shifter, these come apart just like this. So the cables, the top cable in this, so this is the top of the shifter, this top cable is this cable, this front one. The rear one goes to the bottom because this is forward, this is reverse. So what we have to do is, now that we have our mount all done up, we can slide our cables into the mount holders. This is very hard to show you guys. We can start lining it all up. You got the bolt?
Now I do.
Washer. Okay. So we replaced the bolt with a little longer one. And then when we tighten this, we got to make sure to guide this plastic back in all of its channels. So we're gonna get this bolted up because I need an extra hand, and then we'll have the shifter mount done. We can put our swing arm onto the chassis and get the pivot bolted up. We thought this was gonna be way heavier.
Now I gotta grab that.
That's how the mount. Oh yeah. Okay. A little bit more. A little bit more. Oh, not there. Here you go. All right, this is the swing arm on. One shock is on, so this is the angle of the dangle. We're gonna have plenty of room. We're not gonna get into anything. We didn't test it, so that's good. Real nice. So this tube that we put in to support this corner is real close to this side of the driven. This is your CVT driven. This is your drive. So the drive, of course, the inside bell closes right here and pushes up the belt. And what controls this is the springs and weights in here. What controls when, so you can adjust the spring in here to make it harder so this doesn't kick in the second gearing ratio faster. So the driven controls the drive, the springs and weight controls your takeoff. So that's how a whole CVT like this works. And this is the most basic style CVT, by the way. A GY6 has the most advanced in the power sports world. So anyways, when this bell closes, it's going to get close to this, or opens, because this moves. This side of the bell physically moves that way. And we got about a 1/16 of an inch. We got to space this off. So we're going to put an 1/8 inch washer, just to give us extra, to push this pulley out an 1/8 inch. Then we got to push this pulley out an 1/8 inch, because I wasn't thinking, I mean, I left room.
It's close.
It's very close. It may touch, may not. I'd rather just make sure we can move these out an 1/8 of an inch. It's not going to change the world. 1/4 of an inch maybe, to just have extra room.
Extra.
Yeah, so we'll do that real quick. We just got to pull these pulleys off. And now looking at it, can't get this off with this, but we can unbolt this real fast, the brake set up. Then we can put our brake caliper on and get that finished, because we didn't mess with the brakes. We are going to be upgrading. Someone was asking about how we're going to stop this hog. The brakes work pretty good. I like rear brakes because you can slide it around.
Yeah, it's fun.
But we're going to add front hydraulic brakes to this. The single rear brake will do just fine. As long as you have a good caliper. This is a dual piston caliper. It's bigger than what's normally on these go-karts. Like on a GY6 150 go-kart, this is a single piston. So this will be a good brake. We won't have to worry about that. So we're gonna get this fixed real quick, and then we can get the other shock hooked up, and then it's just finishing off the little bit of wires, putting the tires on it, hooking up fuel, throttle, little things like that, and we're ready.
Finishing the shifter.
Yeah, we just gotta mount the shifter real quick. So we'll show all that. We're gonna get this done off camera. All right, so we put these lock collars on here, and I'm gonna tack weld the bracket, or weld the bracket to these collars, and then we can adjust the shifter and put it anywheres on this bar. So I think that'll work out real nice. So fire in the hole. Okay. We'll go ahead and weld this real quick. You don't need a ton. And there we go. I don't care if it hurts the paint because the paint's not perfect anyways. Now, and that's cockeyed a little too much, but it was the only way to easily do it. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be great.
Real nice.
You got plenty of room to grab it. And is that in the middle? Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm gonna lock that down and then we are golden. So Lonnie cut and cleaned some angle iron and some flat stock, and I'm gonna tack all this together and then we'll have a battery box. We're gonna put these tabs on each side in the center, and these will bolt to the tube that's on there. I'm gonna tack this. Corner. Now I'm going to weld this out and we will have a quick and simple battery box. Just cut 2 pieces of angle, 2 pieces of flat. You can put tabs on it to bolt it down, or you can just weld the box to the frame. You know, however you want it. Hole marked. Yeah. Now the battery mount is done. And for now, I gotta order a battery strap, so we're just gonna put a zip tie around it. It'll be fine. It's a lithium, so it's super light. Okay, so now what we've done is, if you look down here, we have the engine grounded here. And if you follow that, that goes down to this grounding point in front of my finger. Can you see that?
Yep.
So this cable grounds to what we call the tatty. And so I'm gonna pull this up through here. And this will go to this hole right there, that cleaned up hole. And then I'm gonna strap another ground that'll go from here up to the battery. And everything will be grounded super, super nice. So I'm gonna get that done. Then I run a main 4 gauge from the battery down to the starter post. And then we can do our key switch real quick. All right, so we took our key switches we sell on rbgkarts.com. Comes with this bracket. It normally has a bent ear that you can wrap around too, but it's not gonna work out on this buggy anywhere. So all I'm gonna do is we cut it down, cleaned it up, and I'm gonna weld it on right there. And that should work out great. Okay, that's definitely not dark. Hello.
I'm blind now. Battery dead?
No, I wonder if I got it on grinder mode. How do I put it on grinder mode? Alright, so there's our key switch bracket. Not even tacked on the lower one. I'm gonna, before I fully weld it, I'll make sure the key's in a good spot. I might have to bend it out a little bit. But our key switch is done, and I'll show you how we're gonna wire it once I weld this up. Alright, with that cooled down, we can go ahead and put our key switch in. Now, what I've done here is the white coming out of the key switch is our accessory, and it's going to run to the input of this toggle switch. Then the white going to our connector that's going to go down the main harness will go to the other side of this toggle switch. And so basically when we turn the key switch on, this white will get power again, because it's an accessory, which will give power to this toggle switch. When we turn on the toggle switch, it's going to send power through this white wire, and in the back of the go-kart we can hook it up to the light bar relay to turn it on. So we got our switch in there. Our key switch comes with a billet nut because the plastic ones are very bad about splitting if you get them tight enough. So that's cool. Again, one side is going to plug up to one side of our toggle, then the other white will plug up to the other post on our toggle switch. So now we can make a harness that plugs up to this and runs to the back with 5 wires, and I'll show you where each wire goes from this harness. So the key switch harness is all installed. We have it running back in this braided wire loom. So again, the red wire from the key switch goes down to the starter relay to the spade connection right there. So this is the red wire from the key switch. The green wire from our key switch is hooked up to our kill wire right there. Then we have our charging system hooked up to the lug on the starter solenoid, along with the 12-volt line going up to the battery. So that's how the charging system is going to power and recharge our battery. Then we have a black wire coming from our I actually had to use dark purple because I'm out of my black 16 gauge wire, but this purple goes to the black wire on the key switch to ground it to the battery. Then we have this ground going over to a relay. We'll talk about it in a second. And then we have the yellow wire, which you can see right there, going up to this fusible link hooked up to our hot. Now this battery, this is why I like these lithiums, is they have 2 grounds and 2 hots, so you have more connection points. And so that's all the wires we have. And then the white accessory wire from the key switch goes and ties into this relay. So basically the white from our key switch goes to the white on the relay. Most relays have this same color on the pigtails. The white is the trigger wire that turns the relay on. Then we have a red wire on the relay going to another fusible link to the battery, because that's how the relay gets its main draw of power. Then the output of the relay is blue, and it's running to the hot of our light bar up there on the roof. And then we have the light bar grounded. So basically, for people that don't know, a relay, it handles current up to, you can get 35 amp ones, 45 amp ones. So the toggle switch is triggering this relay to turn on, and the relay is handling the current through it. Toggle switch is only meant to trigger a relay, not to, if we were running, let's say this light bar takes 10 amps of draw, that could possibly melt and catch on fire a toggle switch. So that's why we have a relay that's controlling the power that goes to the light bar. So now if we turn the key switch on over here, we can start the engine. Okay, and then we also have this switch here, the factory toggle switch. Sorry. And it turns our light bar on. So everything is wired up. It's super simple to wire these engines. Now I just gotta throw a set of tires on it and we can go test drive this thing and see how she's gonna run. So this old throttle cable isn't long enough, so we gotta pull out, there's a clip on this throttle cable. There we go. So we got this C-clip right there that was holding the housing of the throttle cable on. So now we can pull it out, and now we have the housing unhooked. Now this is how they did the throttle, the eyelet. So it has an eyelet here and this little locking collar, and the bolt in the locking collar bites down on this rod. This rod can kind of spin freely. And we have a new throttle cable that's longer, that's just like this, that we found. I mean, we've had it for years. We're gonna loosen this. We gotta actually take this bolt all the way out. It's actually a 3/8. Everything's on the chassis on this go-kart, since it's an American-made go-kart, American-ish made go-kart, is gonna be standard. Now we have our housing and our eyelet and everything off. Now I'm actually going to keep this cable because you'll never know when you might need it. So we have our new longer cable, and this eyelet's not going to pass through the original eyelet space, so I'm going to pull the insides out. Go ahead and see if this is going to fit. Nope. So this one is going to use a double nut setup. So I'm going to drill this out a step up so this will pass through it. Then we can go ahead and lock this in place, feed our cable back through, and install this eyelet just like it was. And then we can hook it up to the carb. Okay, our throttle is hooked up. Now that we have our throttle cable ran, we're going to have to move this throttle cable hold down to this location here. Predator 420s come with it in both locations, but the 460 only comes with one. So you just move that over and go ahead and leave that loose because our housing goes under this. Most people probably already know this, but then we have this eyelet here, and it's held on with a C-clip underneath. So here's one I pulled off a 212 Predator. You can see it has a C-clip on the bottom, so we'll pop that off. This will set down in there and we'll pop the C-clip back on the bottom. I think we're actually going to have to remove this real quick. Take the nut off. Take this little Millennial Falcon looking piece off. I'm gonna pop this up. Then we have a compression washer that's kind of bent, and that's to keep pressure on this. And then slide this, unhook this spring, and slide this off. Now you can see that C-clip that we have on the bottom. We'll go ahead and swap this. Just getting my pick behind it. Okay, now with that little C-clip off, we can pull the eyelet out. We can slide it in the second location. Cool, cool, cool. Okay, I'm gonna actually unhook this spring. This is oval just a little bit, so it's not wanting to pop in there. So I'm gonna just run a step bit in there just to open it up just a little bit so I can pop this in there. Now let's see if that worked. That did. It just had a little ear on there. Now this is the hardest part to show you guys. You got to put that clip back on the little lip. So we have the clip laying in there. Take a set of pliers and then pop it back on there. Now we can install this back on the motor. So we're first going to hook our spring back right there. Let's set that down in there. You also have to hook this spring back up. Have our compression washer, our Millennium Falcon. I don't know why that's such a hard thing to pop in there. We'll put our 10 mil back on. Now what we need to do is make sure we get this as tight as we can. See, that's dragging. But if we loosen it a bit, you can see that's the way we want it to work. Then we're going to open up that eyelet, holding it with 10 mil, and then unscrewing it with a Phillips head. We can feed our cable through. Just like that. And I like to press my throttle housing just a little bit past the retainer. And now we have our throttle hooked up. That was the last piece of the puzzle. All right, guys, so I hope you liked today's video. I hope we answered some questions for you. The go-kart is completely done and ready to ride. So the next episode, we'll be taking it out, ripping on it, and seeing how it handles. And then after that, we have to start upgrading the front end. Someone was asking, how are we going to stop this big buggy with this this power increase. The rear brakes are pretty decent, but of course you want front brakes and something like this. But before we put front brakes, we need to beef up the front end because this front end's pretty clapped out. We did put some 25-inch tires that we had left over. These came off the 999 buggy. And when we put the aluminum wheels on it, we pulled these off. So it's got a lot bigger stance now. But in the next episode, after we ride it, the next episode we'll be riding it. Then the episode after that, we're going to widen the front end a little bit. Maybe, I don't know. It just depends on how it rides like this. If it's tip happy, we might widen it a few inches. But we're going to upgrade to Heim joints on the front end. And we're going to probably build new spindles because I don't like this spindle design. It's kind of weak. And we're going to add front disc brakes. So we'll do a full front end upgrade. And we also got like the front end splitting apart, which I'll show you in that video. It's literally breaking. So we're going to build a whole new bulkhead and everything for this front end. And then we'll be pretty much done with this build. I don't see a lot more that needs to be done. Honestly, like if it rides good and handles really well, then we don't even need to widen it. But I still need to build the axle supports, add the 4 and 5 axle bearings to support the axle right behind the wheels because 1-inch axles are pretty weak, especially when you got any kind of exposed axle. So let that be a lesson. We have bent tons of these axles because they're weaker. The factory axle is actually stronger than the axle we put on here, but of course it's not wide enough. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope we answered some questions. Make sure to check out the links for every part that we're using and going to use in the video's description. It helps us out a ton. A big shout out to EC Carburetors, Vegas Karts, and QS Components, sending out the Heim joints for when we upgrade the front end. We got a lot of sponsors that help out with stuff like this. Light bar came from Harbor Freight. It actually bolted up in factory locations. So we couldn't do these videos without our supporters and without you guys watching and supporting our videos. So thank you guys so much. We love you and God bless.